Fantasy football podcast called Living the Stream comes to you each week. Streaming recommendations during NFL season, it's not just tongue-in-cheek. Quarterback, defense, tight end recommendations based on opposition matchup. Here are your podcast hosts, JJ Zacharyson and Danny Carter, living the stream.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to you know what? I don't even care about the intro. You know why? Because it's the DGAF episode, Denny. I don't care. I don't need to do an intro.
Why are we going to be all official with it?
We don't need to. We don't need to be official.
We're throwing out decorum. You know, we're both drunk. It's just all.
we're totally hammered at 2:30 in the afternoon.
In the afternoon, everything. We're fine. It's a healthy lifestyle. We're okay.
Yeah. But look, man, I don't know about you, but the last like 2 weeks, week especially, has been kind of nice. It's been kind of nice not having to do the grind of fantasy football content the way that we've done it for the last 4 months.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm still doing some of the grind, but not nearly as much. Like my Monday was way different than it usually is.
And so my grind is doing little mitten drafts on, or actually just regular mitten drafts on Underdog right now. I've been grinding some best ball drafts. I was earlier today. I was on a Peloton doing, I don't know if you guys have heard, but I have a Peloton. I was on the Peloton and I've been doing these entertainment rides as because like with cardio, Denny, with cycling, a lot of people will do like a hard hit workout or like a zone 2 workout, which is where, you know, your heart rate's not like totally elevated. You're just kind of getting a good fat burning / you're helping your endurance out a lot in zone 2 type rides. And so I said to myself, why do I need to sit and listen to an instructor and music when I'm doing these zone 2 rides? I'm going to instead grind out some television shows. Well, I've watched the new season of Squid Game on the Peloton.
I'm watching that too with Xavier. It's too much.
Oh, Xavier's one. Wow, okay.
It's way too. I didn't know.
Oh, had you not watched season 1?
Well, we just watched season 1. And that was also a lot, but I feel like season 2 has really ramped up the horror.
Season 2, yeah. If season 1 to me was like a 9 out of 10 show. It was very good. Very good show. Season 2 to me is like a 7 out of 10 show. So it's still good. It's just not the same as season 1.
They should have never made it. Let's be honest.
I mean, most shows, that's the way that it goes. Look, it was enjoyable enough and entertaining enough for me to say this was a good idea, because the characters are like, they're really good with like a lot of shows like that where there are so many different characters. It's really hard to get really strong character development in such a short amount of time. And they do a really good job doing that.
They do.
Like,
I like
making you feel attached.
I like the main guy a lot.
Yeah. The main guy's great. Yeah. But yeah, so I've been doing some cardio via the Peloton and these entertainment rides. I watched Squid Game, watching Black Doves right now. Have you heard of that show with Keira Knightley?
Is it a gangster mob show?
It's kind of it's a spy show.
Okay.
And hitman show kind of deal. I'm only 2 episodes in, and then but anyway, I've been doing these zone 2 rides mixed in with, like, if I'm doing maybe a lift one day or like a more of a hit or a climb ride one day. And I'm also drafting these mitten drafts on Underdog, where you put together these teams where in that format, 1 out of 6 teams advance to the second round, and then it's 1 out of 10, then it's 1 out of 5, and then you're in the finals. Anyway, I'm drafting today. You ever tilt on a Peloton bike before? Because I'll tell you what, I had my first 2 picks were Derrick Henry and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I'm like, okay, I'll try my best to stack Ravens and Lions. Right. I realized that wasn't going to happen because people were stacking like aggressively with them, which they do. But sometimes you can get like a Laporta and like get these guys and like have mini stacks of those 2 teams. So I pivoted and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go with the Rams, and the Texans was another team that I just decided to kind of stack just to get, it was like, I'm going to burn $5 here anyway. I might as well get weird with it. Right.
Well, it's easy to stack the Texans.
That's what you would think. Denny. Matthew Stafford and CJ Stroud and these things go in the final 2 rounds all the time. Right. For some reason, some moron out there, and I'll call you a moron. Some moron out there decides to take Matthew Stafford without Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp,
Oh.
who I have on my team, decided to take Matthew Stafford in the 6th round, and then someone took CJ Stroud when I had Nico Collins and Joe Mixon.
That's dumb.
It was just a waste of time, energy, $5
and money. You're out that $5.
Honestly, at that point, the $5 is the least of my worries. I honestly, I hate humanity more than the $5 that I lost. That's what I'm more upset at.
I totally, I remember doing best ball back in July and August on DraftKings a lot, and I would run into that constantly. It'd be like, and now to complete the stack, and my guy's gone for no reason.
Right.
No reason.
The stacking tilt, like, you learn to just kind of deal with it. It's going to happen, but it's like, I will say it's almost next level in the playoffs formats because you don't have you can't escape it. Like, it's really, really difficult because there's only so many guys you can choose.
Right.
It's really difficult to be like, hey, and there's only 10 rounds versus 18 or 20, whichever platform you're playing on. And so there's only 10 rounds, which means there's not many opportunities to like make up for a moron in your league doing something that's just completely illogical.
What would be the most high leverage way of approaching like a large field postseason tournament like that? My thought is this. My thought is stacking Broncos and fading Bills.
I feel like that's the I feel like you don't need to go that insane.
No, okay.
In my opinion, like I think that you can, like, I'm going to hopefully do around like, I'm going to do like 50, I think, in the mitten. And then I'll scat because I only started drafting playoff stuff this week. Some people were doing it way before this week. Right. I'll probably get into like 100 to 150 drafts is my goal by the end of the week. And so they're really quick. Like it's not, I know it seems like
they are quick.
They're faster. It's 6 teams.
Right.
It's 60 picks in total. Like it's not like that insane of it's like, think about doing a 5-round draft with a 12-team league.
Yeah,
right?
I do that in golf, and it flies by in like 3 minutes.
Right. So you can get them done in like 10 minutes. So
10 minutes, yeah.
I'm hoping that I can get around that number. Now you just take it like draft by draft. Like I think you still need to, like, if you're gonna do that high volume, obviously don't just fade the good teams because that's how you get leverage. Like you can. To me, I think there's an interesting like dynamic when you look at ADP versus like where the teams of those players stand right now. A good example of this is Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson goes like 9th overall in these drafts.
Yeah.
And there's a real chance the Vikings lose this weekend.
Yes, absolutely.
Like I actually think the Rams will win. I would pick the Rams to win that game. It's probably more 50-50, but like I think there's a lot of leverage then on the Rams, because a guy like Jefferson and people are stacking, the Vikings a bit. Puka Nacua goes kind of early, but you can get Stafford in the last round. You can get Kupp, who, in a playoff, in a short term or short 3-game span or 4-game span, he could hypothetically be okay. And then Kyron Williams goes late enough. So it's like, I'm kind of like leaning towards certain teams, and I'm not going to lie. The other team that I think there's leverage, not to say that I think they're going to win in round 1, is Green Bay against Philly, because all these Philly guys go in the first 2 rounds. You get Jalen Hurts like 3rd overall. Saquon will go 101 sometimes over Josh Allen. And then, AJ Brown's a 1-2 turn, and then Devontae Smith's in the 2nd and 3rd round. Like if they lose round 1 and you pick the Packers, who are a good team, not only would the Packers beat the Eagles, but they're then going to go and play the Lions, another team that people have heavily invested in. And it's not like the Packers are like a bad team, right? Yeah. So I'm interested because, like, I don't think the Broncos, if they get lucky and they beat the Bills, I don't think they're going to like go on a run.
No, right. It's a one-off probably.
Yeah.
What about wait, well, let me just check. What about Washington making a run? Are the Commanders stackable easily?
Yeah, they're easily stackable. The Bucks are relatively easily stackable too. I just don't trust. I think both of those teams, in my opinion, like just looking at like how far these teams will go, I don't know if either of them are like NFC Championship caliber teams. No, I think that they're like obviously one of them are going to get to the divisional round, and that's good.
Yeah.
The AFC is obviously a lot easier to predict because chances are we're going to get a Ravens-Bills divisional round against. I think your Chargers will end up beating the Texans, but even if the Texans win, I'm not going to be surprised. But they'll go and they'll play Kansas City and all that. And it's, Kansas City being the offense that they are, it's not like they're so unbeatable that you have to absolutely, go after them. And the other interesting thing with the mitten, this mitten contest, a lot of the other underdog contests are 2 of the 6 teams in your pod or in your league will advance to the second round. And the one that I've been doing is just 1 of the 6. And so I've kind of devalued the Chiefs and Lions a little bit versus what the market's doing, because you need to get through the first round.
You got to get through.
And you're not going to be able to use those teams because
Right.
they're not playing in the first round.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I was thinking with Washington, because obviously you need Daniels, but I feel like you could easily get, I don't have the ADPs in front of me or anything, but McLaurin and Ertz or Alameda Zacchaeus.
You can get all of them relatively cheap. And it's easier to do that than the Buccaneers for sure, because the Buccaneers have Bucky Irving and Mike Evans, and it's a little bit more difficult to go that direction. But I'd say that if I were to pick out my like sleeper, leverage, because like some of my drafts I'm kind of chalky because I'm doing enough that I can be chalky in some and I can get cute in some others. I would say in the NFC it's Green Bay and LA and the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the AFC, I do kind of like going with the Chargers, and
I like the Chargers
and stacking it because I feel like they got the best draw in round 1 of like the wild card teams, obviously, because they're the 5 seed, but Houston to me is not that complete of a team. And then, we can say it, not that I think Kansas City is going to not win the Super Bowl this year, but they are probably weaker this year than they have been in other seasons. Although last year, maybe you can make the argument that they were weaker, but I don't know I think the Chargers are good. Like they have the right assets. They play the right kind of ball for playoff time. And they're also pretty easily stackable, where you can get a Herbert really late and a Ladd relatively late with J.K. Dobbins, and then just get QJ in the last round and you're good to go. So
I do. QJ without Josh Palmer is something, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, wow,
Yeah.
that was crazy. 13 catches on 14 targets last week. This is a lot of strategy talk, a lot of real fantasy football talk for the DGAF episode, I have to say.
I know.
And
you ever see that guy, the old guy who his daughter posts his agendas to when he goes to the bar every Friday with his friends? Have you seen that?
No.
He has just like random line items that just would like, just insane going from one topic to the next of just not even related things. And he puts an agenda together for him and his buddies at the bar every Friday. I have 3 things. One of them actually is related to Justin Herbert. Did you see that Justin Herbert said in a press conference yesterday that the first time he realized Jim Harbaugh was different was when Harbaugh told the team he remembered the day he was born?
Come on, man. Come on. This guy is so kooky.
He's amazing. But I've come to realize how awesome, like why it's so awesome is because he's this insane dude leading a bunch of 20-something millionaires.
Yeah.
And they're, if you're a 20-something millionaire, you got to have the biggest ego on earth. If you're in the NFL, you have to have a big ego. And it's someone who is just this insane and weird. He's weird.
He's
right?
weird.
Yeah.
He talks about the chicken. Don't eat chicken because they're a scared bird.
Yeah, exactly.
A fearful bird.
Yeah. But like, I think it's awesome. I kind of love Jim Harbaugh.
I have to say, I do too, in a way. I also fear that our guy Jim is spending too much time on the internet and
maybe
probably has picked up some bad beliefs from the internet, is what I'm guessing.
Do you think that any of this is a facade for Jim?
Facade for what? Covering up what?
Yeah, covering up like his a truer self.
Oh, for sure. Oh,
you do think?
I think he's kind of a freak. I think he's probably a little more deranged than we know. Like,
okay.
The way that he talks.
I was thinking the other direction.
Really?
As in like, what if this is a way for him to like you? So you think he's even stranger than what is being portrayed?
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, look, this is the guy who wears like 5-6 shirts, like for no reason. Like his beliefs. I mean, you probably wouldn't really want to know his beliefs. He drinks milk all the time
instead of water. Yeah.
God bless.
He can bench, like he's over 60 years old and he can bench like 225.
I don't even want to know where he read that thing about milk. Please just never tell me, Jim, where you read that an adult man should be drinking milk every single day.
Yeah. My second item on this list was I was listening to my podcast Armchair Expert today, as I've noted to folks before. I listened to Dak Shepard's podcast because I think he's a really, really, really underrated interviewer, very vulnerable person, which I respect. And they had Tyler Perry on, okay, who I found to be incredibly, incredibly interesting and like a really good dude, seemingly, right? Obviously, you go on a podcast, you're only getting like an hour glimpse of this person's life and who they are, but sometimes you can get an idea. He seems like a genuinely decent dude. Did you know that Tyler Perry was a billionaire?
He was?
No, that he is a billionaire.
Oh, that he is. Oh,
he's currently a billionaire.
I think I did know that because he has his own production studio.
He does. So I knew all this stuff, like that he's big and he's done so. I understand all that. I just didn't realize that his net worth was well over $1 billion.
Oh, he's insanely rich.
That's like it was like mind blowing to me.
Yeah,
for a minute.
Like I feel like he's like the kind of rich, him and like Oprah, the kind of rich that like fund a presidential campaign by themselves.
Well, they're friends too, right?
I think so. Yeah,
I think they're good friends. But yeah, it's just wild. And he came from he came from a really broken household. And home and his he had to like hide a lot in his house because of domestic violence and whatnot, and now he's a billionaire. It's wild.
I don't want to sidetrack you with your line items. Can I throw one thing out there for this conversation?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we were talking about I went to Canada last week and with a bunch of family members from Melissa's side, and I was talking to my brother-in-law about winning the Powerball, right? And the Powerball this time around was like 2 billion. I mean, like over $1 billion. I think is that maybe
I have no idea.
It was like around $1 billion. If someone in the comments can help me, and I said I'd rather not win it. I said that's life ruining money. Like
life ruining. You would not want $1 billion.
I don't think so. And so I wanted to ask you: am I completely off base? Would you accept $1 billion?
Yeah,
you would.
Yeah, immediately.
I don't know
because man. I trust myself to hopefully do good with it.
I trust myself too, but
what's your fear of having $1 billion?
First of all, like the ability
to 500 million because you'd have to pay half that.
Right. Like the ability to shoot webs out of your hands. It comes with great responsibility, great power.
I mean, but look at all the billionaires in the world who are not doing anything.
I mean, their lives are probably horrible.
You think?
No, I think so. Yeah. And then you have.
I think some are fine. I think like Mark Cuban's life is pretty good.
You have family members and friends coming to you asking for money. You're going to have to say no. Like eventually you can't just give everybody a bunch of money. That's not good. That's not healthy.
You're right. I think that it depends on I would say your goal should be just to be charitable immediately and just have a good cushion to support your immediate family and maybe a little circle outside of that for the rest of your life.
I just feel like I could not handle the pressure that came along with having that sort of money. Because it's not, look, I'm going to accept $1 million. I'm going to accept 10 million. Okay. I can accept that. $1 billion is more money than you could ever spend in your life if you live for another 150 years. And what I mean by that is because you're going to invest hundreds of millions in a low yield stock that's going to give you, I don't know, like $100,000 a day for the rest of your life, something like that. Right. So, so it'll never run out. And that to me is a burden. I don't want it. I don't know.
That's interesting. I would take it.
Charles Sword says in the comments, $1 billion could build a lot of David Bowie holograms. And Charles makes a good point. Maybe I'm off base here. Maybe I could just
Bethany is saying in chat, where do you draw the line?
Oh, yes. Yes. Bethany Q. Peters, the 7th, is asking about where I draw the line. I don't know. I mean, I don't know because I've never had any sort of money like that.
Like 100 million?
I guess. Yeah. Something like that. I think you could spend 100 million. I think you can spend that.
I don't think that the lives of billionaires are horrible because of the $1 billion. I think their lives are horrible because to get $1 billion through whatever means they did generally. Some of them, like I don't think Tyler Perry was necessarily this way, but most of them more than likely had to be and do bad things to get to that point.
Absolutely.
And so there's probably a lot of guilt that they live with. And that's why they have the bad in relationships that they lost and all of that. And that's why they feel bad. If you were given that money, you're still the same person, just with $1 billion.
I mean, I guess you don't have to be public facing. And because I'm thinking of like, of like our beautiful oligarchs, our Bezos, our Zuckerberg, our Musk, right?
We love them.
And they all seem miserable as shit, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, sorry to the kids, but yeah.
They seem like they have the worst lives possible. They seem miserable all the time, constantly, deeply unhappy on every level.
Maybe.
And so, but maybe that's just because they're putting themselves out there in ways you don't have to. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that it just depends. I think it's still at its core comes down to the kind of person that they are. Like there are some billionaires that are, and people who are egregiously rich who are still like seemingly good people. But then there's, I would say that just because of like that, it's similar to like the way that we were just talking about with NFL players or like quarterbacks in general. The majority of quarterbacks are going to have massive, massive egos because number one, they've gone up through the ranks with everyone saying how good they are. But number two, in order to be a leader and in that position, you have to think that you're the best at that thing.
Oh yeah.
And at some, and that will generally like, permeate and be part of your entire being in some way. And so I think that like the people who are that massively successful, like there are points in time where I say to myself, like, do I really need to do that thing to make that much more? Like, is it all that necessary from like a time and cost benefit from like, losing time with my family and all that kind of stuff? And sometimes the answer is no, right? Like to like there are those kinds of opportunities that arise. Whereas there are people out there who literally do the opposite all the time with every decision that they make in their life. And that's
how can I maximize? Yeah. No, I hear you. And that's why you would be okay with $1 billion. I will say the one thing I would do obviously is buy everyone in America 1 can of chickpeas. I would spend $350 million on that.
Charles makes the point that if the Patreon money hasn't ruined you two, I think you're good. It's a good point. It's a good point. The last thing I want to talk about was you got my Christmas card, Denny.
Yes, and thank you for that. It came like weeks after you sent it.
You are forever. Yeah, I mean we had to get it printed and do all that kind of stuff.
No. What I mean is like I think the mail kind of dropped the ball there.
Oh, okay. But yeah, you are forever now part of the mailing list to get our Christmas card.
Well, I appreciate it. It was a beautiful picture of you and the fam.
Yeah.
And I showed it to my kids, obviously to Melissa, and both my kids commented about how big CJ had gotten since they last saw a picture of him, and
yeah,
it was a very nice little surprise in the mailbox.
He is full-blown boy toddler. Just just wrestling and hitting and throwing things and just being a toddler. That's CJ.
If I ever do a Christmas card with my family, I'll send it. I'll definitely send it to you.
Okay. All right.
Not sure if that's going to happen.
So as we do on the DGAF episode every year, we got to recap the season that we just had. I'd say that this year, here we go. Scott Galloway. Do you know Scott Galloway? Have you heard his stuff before and listened to him?
I don't know.
He's done, I don't know like how you would categorize him, but he's done like business stuff and investment stuff, but also he's done research and like has talked about like gender in society and like he has like a pro male stance, but not at the detriment to female, if that makes sense. And he kind of he's left leaning and stuff, so it's not like what you would think would it's not like that. He's a thoughtful, I think he's fairly thoughtful. He said Scott Galloway reached 100 million and now he spends until his net worth is 100 million every year.
That makes sense. And
he had a quote about that. He said something along the lines of like, having money is amazing because spending money is so much fun. Like he's openly like just talking about like how giving and spending is like, it's fine to admit that it's fun to do.
Yeah. I'm sure. I bet you in a way you get greedy for it. You get greedy for being able to help people and help causes that you prioritize. I'm sure that feels great. And so when I say I don't want $1 billion, it's not that I have no plans on giving it away. That is actually what I would try to do primarily. But this guy, Scott Galloway, is onto something, because really no one should be able to have over $100 million at any point.
There you go.
So that we don't have people buying the government, things of that nature.
Bethany says that does not, in fact, make sense when I was referring to boosting up males while not deterring females. What he basically preaches, though, is about like males having the right confidence and being good people, as opposed to like, because a lot of times with gender discussions, it's always like, we got to only love women, or we got to only no, it's like we can be better together. And this is, his focus has just been on the fact that like as rightfully feminism has risen and hopefully women are getting more and more opportunity, also there's a subset of men who feel lost, and let's not let them feel lost.
Absolutely. I tried to address that in the dad season show, which I did last year. I might bring that back in the off season, but I think that especially young men feel that way increasingly. Should they? That's a question. That's an open question, and I think it's worth talking about.
Right, but they do. Yeah. All right. So what happened in the 2024 season? Let's start with defense. Defense, we usually stream around defense 3 or 4. This year, Denny, so this is based on our main plays averages each week. This year, our defense averaged 9.74 points per game, which was the defense 2 equivalent.
That's awesome.
It did not beat the Broncos, who were at 10.5. And then I also listed some early wins, right? Defense, it's not as big of a deal as tight end and quarterback. But in week 1, we streamed Minnesota's defense, which was, I believe, the defense 2 this year.
Really? Okay.
But we were better than what Minnesota's defense did, despite the fact that we got a -4 from the Colts defense the final week of the season.
That sucked. Yeah.
That was one of the looking back and then looking at how the Giants did their final week and it's like the process was fine. You can't, a lot of people were mad in the Discord in my Discord about like the Colts, not like at me, just at the fact that the Colts didn't perform well.
Sure.
And I had to remind them, I'm like, look, yes, it's a horrible result, a tilting beyond belief result, but at the end of the day, it was the right process. I stand by that process.
Absolutely, 100%. Just like Nick Foles week 3, we did nothing wrong.
We didn't know the field was going to catch on fire. We didn't know that was going to happen.
That wasn't in our spreadsheets. You know what was in our spreadsheets? It was a good matchup. It was a pass funnel. The game total had risen. Nick Foles was lighting it up. Okay, so all that said yes. The fire on the field said no. We didn't know. We just didn't know. So defense was a defense 2 equivalent. Quarterback. Now, I've written about this. We've talked about this over the last 5 to 6 years. Quarterbacks have been the haves and have-nots, if you will, where there have been some mobile guys who have allowed themselves to be pretty consistent contributors and like really good at the position year in and year out. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, now Jalen Hurts as well. This year, we averaged 18.3 points per game. That was a QB 10 equivalent. But again, we don't have the benefit of keeping players and streaming them all year round when their percent rostered rises. Week 1 and 2, we had Baker Mayfield as a streamer. Week 3 and 4, we had Sam Darnold as a streamer. Really?
Wow. Bo Nix mid-season was a streamer pretty consistently for us. So like, I don't, I think that if you were to really look at streaming and combine it with like free quarterback in your draft, right? I don't even want to say late round quarterback. I want to say free quarterback, like last round quarterback. If you were to get Baker and just play him, then you got like a top 5 quarterback this year. But I think this QB 10 number is the absolute bottom. It's the absolute worst that you would have hypothetically got.
And also, we lose our supply of viable starters. I mean,
horrible.
We get to the point in week 14, 15, 16 where we're like, Joe Flacco, I guess. Yeah, right. Like everybody else is taken. Yeah, right. I mean, Mayfield goes out. I didn't know this. Am I off base here? Do I remember this from his Pro Football Reference? 45 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, he had something insane like that.
45. What?
It was. What? I don't know. I mean, if that combines rushing, maybe because didn't Burrow have 44 this year?
I don't know, man.
So Baker had 41 passing.
Oh, okay.
And then I mean, I could see I don't have his rushing sitting right in front. I'm trying to go to it. Rushing was 3, so he had 44 touchdowns.
44 touchdowns. I mean, that's like way more than Josh Allen, for instance.
Yeah, right. He like Baker had a lot of touchdowns this year. One of my misses in terms of like not being. I mean, I had like market value enough of him in best ball, but I wasn't like massively overweight in the Bucks offense.
Why? I didn't know, Mayfield was going to go pure DGAF this year and run around, like a kid on the playground. I mean, that was crazy to see. I mean, it was cool, but wow, I didn't see that coming.
Liam Cohen, man, he's good.
He is good.
I hope he gets ahead. Well, part of me doesn't want it to happen because I want him to stay in Tampa Bay because the offense can be fun. But if he goes to somewhere else, we should be excited about that.
Trevor Lawrence needs to camp out in front of his home and in front of
Ben Johnson.
Who else?
Ben Johnson.
Yes, in front of Ben Johnson, because basically anybody that can create some easy throws for Trevor Lawrence, which he's really never had. Like, that's what he should be looking for. So, Trevor, you got to go camp out in front of these guys' homes.
Yeah, or Drake May. Same deal with Drake May.
Yes, same. Yeah.
Tight end, we averaged 10.4 PPR points per game. That was a tight end 9 equivalent. Early wins at tight end, we had Taysom Hill in week 1. We had Cade Otton in week 5.
Really?
Zach Ertz in week 3. So could have gotten some of those guys and been even better than that mark. So that's around what we honestly, it might be even a little bit better than some seasons at tight end. I think some seasons were at like tight end 11 or so. One year we were at tight end 4, I remember.
Wow.
And it was a shock because it's not easy to do. But you were still right in the thick of it if you use some of the tight ends and streamed. So overall, I think it was an okay season for the most part.
I think it was more than okay.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. DGAF episode. We got some DGAF questions.
Yeah.
Do you want to start on Patreon?
Yes. So this is from the patrons. We appreciate.
I haven't seen any of these.
That. Yeah. We have a lot from Reed Saito, who we appreciate, of course, one of our guys. I'll read one of them here. Talking about Denny spent all the Patreon money on lavish vacations in Greece and Canada last year. Any international destinations planned for this year? So this goes to both of us. Do you have any vacations planned?
I don't right now. We're thinking about it though. My wife and I, Amanda and I, are going to be celebrating our 10-year wedding anniversary. So
oh wow, really?
Yeah,
10 years.
Okay. Yeah, isn't that crazy that it's been that quick?
That is wild. I
remember you and Reeves talking about. I feel like if I got married tomorrow, you guys would be invited. But I remember we had only known each other for a couple of years at that point, and you and Reeves talked about crashing my wedding. I remember.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it did fall on a part of our friendship where it wasn't quite there.
It wasn't like quite there. Yeah.
One more from Reed here. If Aaron Rodgers took his last snap in the NFL, how does he stay famous and relevant in the media? Will he be a color commentator, podcast host, WWE, WrestleMania, guest spot? I would say none of those. I would say
you don't think podcast?
I guess the most likely would be of those would be the podcast.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything in football, right?
I don't think so. I think have you watched any of his documentary?
I haven't. I'm just so exhausted.
You have not, you said?
I have not seen it, no.
Okay. That was one of my zone 2 I'm only an episode and a half in. That's how interested I was in the whole thing. That I moved on to Squid Game. But there, he had a scene of him going on a hike with RFK, and it was the scene of him saying that he was that he asked him to be VP, his VP. And like it was there. So I do think that politics is one direction that Rodgers would egotistically think that he would be good at and get into.
I don't know why I didn't think of that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, he's going to run as an independent Senate candidate in Wisconsin. That's what he's going to do. The thing that I find exhausting, I wanted to watch, what is it? Enigma.
Yeah. Enigma.
That's the name of the documentary, right?
It's not uninteresting.
Right. But the idea that he has, at least, is that being contrarian about everything is in itself inherently interesting, and it's not.
Right.
It,
I
it's
would
just,
agree with that.
you
Yeah.
know, I mean, being contrarian, I like being contrarian on some things, but you have
Yeah.
to pick and choose. You can't just
Right.
always
Well, then
be like,
no one takes you seriously.
yeah, you can't always be like, oh, you say this is good for me, I say it's bad. You
Yeah.
say this is bad for me, I think it's good. Like, you,
Yeah. I
yeah.
actually think that he wouldn't be looked at the way that he does if he didn't seemingly play victim all the time.
Oh, he loves to position himself as the
That's the thing that annoys me. Like if he wants to be anti-vax, if he wants to be talk about food in a certain way or whatever, and talk about his psychedelics in a certain way, that's one thing. The thing that annoys me is then when he talks about how the media then portrays what
yeah,
he's doing
yeah.
versus like, dude, you're not the only anti-vax quarterback in the like. I'm pretty.
No,
Wasn't Lamar Jackson anti-vax?
uh,
Wasn't
ev-
Kirk?
every single one.
Yeah, right. Like
Yeah,
most
apparently.
quarterbacks were, most quarterbacks didn't get vaccinated, which is fine. Like, no, like people got over it. They're not getting over it with you, Aaron, because number one, you literally went out. Actually, this is the main reason you
Yeah.
went out and you lied about your status in general, and you were playing it in a certain way where you knew what you were doing while you were saying those things. And that's why people then were like, screw this guy. Just say that you're not, like, just man up and just be that person.
What was the word he used?
I am
Uh,
inoculated. No, what was it?
Inoculated. Yeah.
Was it inoculated?
Yeah. So what he's saying by intentionally saying inoculated and all that.
Immunized.
I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you to the commenters.
Yeah.
He's immunized. What you're doing is you are gaslighting people. You're saying
That's right.
You're
Right.
saying I know that this is an overused term and some people don't like it, but this is like a textbook definition of gaslighting, where you say I'm immunized, and then later on it's revealed he's not vaccinated, and he says, well, I never was vaccinated. I didn't say I wasn't. I didn't say I was vaccinated. I said I was immunized. No, don't gas. And so he's an expert gaslighter. I actually don't think anybody in public life is better at gaslighting the public on everything, not just vaccine stuff, but on everything than Aaron Rodgers. So maybe that's what he can do after football, is just gaslight people for the rest of his life.
Yeah, like the bottom line, and this is what Jaquan's saying in chat. It's like, either way, get vaxxed or don't. Not my problem. Just don't lie. And don't lie. And like he acts like that he's like the only, like, no, dude, like just don't be so weird about things and lying to people the way that you're lying to people, and you wouldn't be looked at the same way. People freaking love Kirk Cousins. They love him.
Yes.
They adore him. He's done a complete rebrand, not because of the vax stuff, but just because he was kind of like a kind of lame and just like not very fun, seemingly, right? And then his image completely turned around. People love a Lamar Jackson. I can't remember if Lamar Jackson was vaccinated.
I don't think he. No, I don't think.
I don't want to, like, I'm not trying to, like, say something wrong about someone, but regardless, like, he's the only quarterback that there is that strong of a feeling towards, Aaron Rodgers. And there's a reason, like, to not take any accountability for the things that you're saying to people is what drives me the most nuts. Because I actually think, like, if you watch that documentary, there are conversations and interactions that he has where you're like, okay, it's not all like that. It's just that he goes in front of the media and he tries to be this person that he's trying to paint himself a certain way. And it's
he can't decide whether he wants to be loved or hated. He's not okay with being hated. That's something I watched his segment on the Pat McAfee show for most of the regular season, just for news purposes. So like if he said something newsy, I could write about it. It was torturous, don't get me wrong. But one thing that came through over and over every single week he talked to McAfee was this: he did not like being disliked. And he would say so. He would imply, well, nobody likes me for this, but I don't care because I'm just going to stick by it. Yeah. The media hates this about me, or my team, or not my teammates, but my opponents don't like me, and this guy doesn't like me.
Yeah, a lot of narrative creation.
Yeah, man. Like you have to be okay if you're going to do this whole enigma thing, this whole like I'm a contrarian. You got to be okay with being hated. Like that's part of it. And I respect Kirk Cousins a lot more with the way he handled the vaccine thing, because he said, "Look, God's got me. If I die, I die. I don't care." And that, to me, I'm like, well, then we're washing our hands of it, and this is not a conversation.
Yeah. At least, like, Yeah, exactly. But there's stuff in there where you're like, oh man, maybe he's just a little bit misunderstood. And then every time I watch a documentary, I then take a step back after watching the documentary, and I'm like, that is the purpose of the documentary. It's trying to frame these people in a positive light because X, Y, and Z is happening to them in a negative light, typically,
Right.
generally. All right, next question. Let's get off of Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. Yes, we'll do a few more from the patrons. Let's see. We have Michael Cater, Denny JJ, all NFL flag football draft for the 2028 Olympics. We need a starting 5 lineup. I don't really know if that's a question, but it sounds interesting to me. Are you in on the flag football thing or no?
Wait, so is this are we picking NFL players to create a flag football team?
I see yes, starting 5. Yes, they're asking for a starting 5.
Okay, so we need fast and twitchy. I still think Tyreek Hill would have to be on the team, even though he's going to be in 2028. He'll be like 35.
I do too.
Okay, we need a quarterback. I mean, do you just say Lamar?
Jaden Daniels?
Jaden Daniels? Yeah, one of those two. We'll just say one of those two.
Okay.
And then we need probably one running back, but you need like a smaller, elusive one.
Yeah.
Maybe like a Bucky because he's just so like twitchy.
Oh yeah.
Bucky
let's go with Bucky Irving.
And then we need probably 2 more wideouts if they're saying 5.
Yeah.
2 more wideouts. So we want one monster and then probably another twitchy dude.
Well, Jefferson.
Yeah, we'll go Jefferson as the monster.
And then who's super twitchy?
Someone said Deuce Vaughn.
Malik Neighbors?
Could do Neighbors. He's more like, I mean, Neighbors could work.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of someone smaller.
Someone who, and they'll also be a few years more in. So you can even go like Brian Thomas Jr. if you just want to go crazy with Jefferson and B. Thomas.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. Those are our answers.
All right. We'll do
Lad McConkey.
Oh, Lad. Yeah. He's small.
Yeah. He'll beat everyone.
Ben Bromberg wants to know who is the saddest head coaching candidate of this cycle. My nominees are Matt Nagy, Rex Ryan, and Ron Rivera. Those are sad.
So you know that Matt Nagy, like people forget, he had like a 12-win season in Chicago.
Yeah, he did.
Like I don't want to. I mean, Rex Ryan, I think it's funny because it's like he hasn't been around for an era of football. Like he hasn't been a head coach for that long.
What if that happens? I'm gonna be like sick.
It can't happen. I think Ron Rivera might be the saddest.
Yes. This guy hasn't had a good coaching season since like 2011.
Yeah. Hey, do you remember, by the way, whenever I said that the Steelers were going to lose the Browns, that was whatever happened in that game would dictate if they were going to win or lose a playoff game this year?
Did you say that?
I said that the Steelers were going to lose the Browns, and I said if they don't lose the Browns, then that'll be the sign that this is the year they actually win a playoff.
And now they're about to get their butts.
And now they're about to get their what's kicked. Yeah, I mean, isn't it wild how the Steelers go through the same story every single year? Every year, it's the same thing. Like people are out of their, like, I still don't think that you fire Tomlin, right? I don't think that you trade him or whatever. No. But people are still, I mean, there are things that he said recently, like one of them being like they were so inefficient on the ground. But he's still very much a ground and pound. Oh yeah, from a philosophy standpoint, Tomlin just needs a next gen OC.
Yes.
Imagine Mike Tomlin coaching a team with Ben Johnson as OC.
He's a leader of men.
To be honest, that's what Dan Campbell is. Like that's exactly what they've gotten in Detroit.
Man, you are exactly right. But Tomlin doesn't want to play that way. Tomlin refuses to modernize in any respect, including in game management. His game management remains
horrific.
Remains probably the worst of anybody in the NFL, and that includes the worst. We're talking Antonio Pierce. We're talking Eberflus. Okay, maybe Eberflus was worse, but these guys who like clearly don't care about game management. Like Tomlin is in their league.
Yeah. No, he's horrible at the end of games and end of halves. He needs they need the saddest coaching candidate's Arthur Smith.
Oh, you think?
He's gotten interviews. or he's gotten
Yes.
requests.
I don't know. I feel like that makes some sense.
Denny.
I,
Denny, move on to the next question.
he had a good year in Tennessee once.
Ron Rivera went to the Super Bowl.
I mean, let's be honest. He happened to be coaching a team that was good enough to get to the Super Bowl.
He went to the Super Bowl. Arthur Smith is so bad. So bad. And then one of the most predictable coordinators you're going to find.
Yeah, I know. By the way, I saw some headline today online where it was like, is Matt LaFleur on the hot seat? And
Stop.
I wanted to like throw my computer. What are you talking about? He's like one of the sharpest minds in modern football.
Haven't they won like 10 plus games in like almost every year that he's been there, basically?
Like, I don't necessarily agree. Yes.
Or
yeah,
most,
and
like,
yes.
the majority of them.
I don't necessarily agree with everything he does. Like, I think they're way too stubbornly run heavy
That's
this year.
that's the one. If they would not, like, there are games like the one against Minnesota that they had.
Yes.
They just kept running and running. Yeah. Dude, if you just open it up in the third quarter, you win that game.
Absolutely. I mean, crazy. They almost accidentally won it anyway.
I know. Yeah.
So anyway, that drove me nuts. I love LaFleur. I think LaFleur is amazing.
Oh, he's super attractive too. You got the attractiveness and the football set. That's when you know you got a good football coach. That's what look at Sean McVay and what he's been doing.
Yeah,
like that's a good combo to
and
have.
He got the memo that in order to be an elite coach, you need to have pecs and triceps.
That's right.
Which is important. Which is why Todd Monken's not going to be a head coach, because he has neither. One more here from the patrons. Eric Belair, longtime listener to the show, buddy of ours. We just moved into our new home. Congratulations to Eric, which has a huge deck and patio and a 3-rack dishwasher.
Wow.
Question is, how do I tell my friends I can no longer hang with them now that I'm living on the LTS host level of life? And this is a problem. JJ and I had to tell our friends, look, my deck's too big. His dishwasher's too big. You can't hang out anymore. It happens.
I lost all my friends when I got my new dishwasher. Yeah. Yeah. I don't speak to them anymore. I have other friends, as they always say, surround yourselves with people who are smarter than you and better and, more successful than you, because you will strive to be that. And that's exactly what I've done. And I got to move up a tier whenever I got that dishwasher.
And I grew up hearing, only hang out with people whose deck is bigger than yours. And I don't have, I don't know anybody like that. Like my deck is the biggest. So I have no friends. It's just, it's the way. Eric, it's a sacrifice. Congratulations on your new home. Congratulations on having no friends.
Yeah, I did see Denny's Facebook Marketplace post asking for people with large decks to hang out with. Yeah.
I got some weird replies.
Yeah.
Got people showing up at the house at all hours saying weird things. I don't know. I don't know why. I'll have to check the spelling on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Why don't you go to Twitter, or the X platform formerly known as Twitter?
Yeah, we got a few on here. This is from Didymus. It says, which other fantasy analyst do you particularly relish in beating? Do you favor a win over friends, Lord Reeves, more than frenemies?
Do I?
By the way, I want to, guys, everyone, before Denny answers this, I want to shout out Denny Carter as the Apex League champion. He finally got that W. Very proud of him. Yeah, it was good.
It's my second one.
Oh yeah, it's your second. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
But it's been a long time, obviously.
I lost in the semis in that league.
I desperately want to. You ran into the Burrow machine, the Burrow Saquon machine.
Yeah, I don't think I would have won the championship, so that's good that it wasn't a total heartbreak. I did win the Kings Classic League though this year. With a 0 RB approach, folks. It is alive and well. Alive and well. Anyway, go ahead.
I desperately want to beat you, obviously.
Yeah, same.
I desperately want to beat Rich. I enjoy. I've talked about it on the show before. I dread playing Mike Clay because he always beats my ass. But to beat him once in a while is really cool. Makes me feel good about myself. So those are three things I have for this conversation.
I'd say someone to add to that would be Sean Siegel, because he always, when he does things and when he makes like a start sit decision or when he's adding someone off the waiver wire, so like you can, like sometimes it's contrarian to his name, right? Yeah. And I'm always like, what is he up to? And it's just he's the most mysterious. Maybe it's because his Twitter presence is no longer there and his social media presence is gone.
He hasn't been online in 10 years.
I know he did it the right way. I mean, he's done it. He's done it the right way. But I would say that Siegel is the most mysterious player that I consistently play with, and that makes him someone that I just want to beat.
Yeah, I can see that. Also, I like playing against Sigmund Bloom, just because he's such a good guy, and he's not gonna be mad at me if I win, which is nice.
That's a good one. Is Bloom. But look, most analysts, like, we just want to win. Like winning analyst leagues is a, I won the Kings Classics, a 14-teamer super deep league. We drafted in the Hall of Fame, and it feels good to win that. Like it feels, that like. I had my 0 RB team had Bucky Irving and Chase Brown. It's pretty awesome.
Let me tell you guys, I've sat in on that Kings Classic draft before, not this past year, but the year before. Yeah. It's an intense environment. Like it is. I felt like I was like talking at first, and then I was like, I gotta shut up, man. Like these guys are like grinding their asses off.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that you're doing a draft while SiriusXM is literally behind you commenting on your picks.
Oh, it's so serious.
And there was a lot of like, what's JJ doing with his running backs and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what am I doing with my running backs? Well, what I'm doing is winning a championship, baby. Chase Brown and Bucky Irving. Let's go.
That is funny, because I would have the same thought. I'm praying that somebody emerges for me. That's what
Yeah, right. Like I'm hoping that I will something will happen here.
Yeah.
Like that was a league where I took Marvin Harrison at the 1-2 turn too. It was a wide receiver heavy PPR, it was the right kind of league to go 0 RB. It was a 14-teamer too. And I was like, okay, I'll get a share here. And that didn't really work out, but he actually had a decent championship week. He did well against the Rams both times he played them. So.
I have a question from Blue Sky. We live in the stream is also on the sky that is blue. Ben Kelly at Beefcake5 says, what is one thing in life, not fantasy, that you learned about yourself over the past year? And
do you have anything?
What is one thing I learned? Yeah, I do have something. I learned that I avoid confrontation at all costs. And
yeah,
I needed
did you just enhance like that was enhanced for you? Because you probably knew that already.
I generally, but I became much more conscious of that.
Yes.
issue.
Yeah.
And so knowing that, I mean, being more aware of it, like in the front of my mind, helped me, to stop trying to avoid. Because trying to avoid confrontation sounds good, but it also can put you in a tailspin, in many ways. And it also avoids addressing problems, like lingering problems that, are in your professional life, your family life, whatever it is. So I've tried to do that. Now, I'm still not good at it.
Sure.
I'm still not good at confrontation.
I'm terrible at it.
Terrible. Like I desperately don't want to do it. And when I do it, I'm not great at like figuring it out, but I have tried to work on that.
I learned that cheese does not agree with me. No, I already knew that.
You knew that.
We've known that for a while. No, what's actually really funny. So David Kitchen started as my COO on January 2nd. So it's been over a week now, or about a week with Kitchen. It's been great, been awesome. We haven't had an argument yet.
That's good.
And we were talking yesterday about the Enneagram tests. Have you heard of?
I know. I'm a number 9.
What's the 9?
I don't know. I just know I'm a number 9.
I ended up being the achiever.
Okay.
And I got mad at myself about it because a lot of the achiever stuff has to do with like climbing the corporate ladder and kind of doing whatever you got to do to like force your way through it. But then I started reading more about it, and there's like the side of being like wanting to live a valuable life that is about like being able to be proud of like your family and like the things that you have like built, right?
Yeah.
And like being very prideful of those things. And I had the realization, this is, it's technically 2025, but I had the realization of like that, of like when I put my mind in the context of my work and such, right? Like my everyday life is not really the achiever type in terms of like, I don't need to go be the best at literally every single thing that I do. But there's definitely a when it comes to my work and when it comes to, doing the fantasy football thing and being an analyst, I have that mentality for sure.
You do.
For sure have that mentality. Like I gotta be the best at what I'm doing and I want to continue to like strive to do, but then there's some stuff that like, because it shows you the addictions that these different classes have, or whatever you call them. And mine was like working out to exhaustion and cocaine use and like a bunch of like, but it's like all the stuff that you would associate with someone who is like upper man in the most cliche way, upper management, corporate life,
hard charging,
yes. Like Manhattan sales guy, like or financial bro or something like that. And I'm like
Patrick Bateman's American Psycho.
Sure. And I'm literally like, I'm not that at all, like that side, but I understand it from a more of like from the sense of just like how I am with with the things that are valuable to me in that matter.
Yes, absolutely. By the way, my Enneagram type 9 is the peacemaker, which makes sense with what I just said.
Yeah, I could see that. There's also, what was really interesting too, is that like you can see like it shows you how you react to things when you're in a healthy state and an unhealthy state. And like for instance, an achiever, when they're in a healthy state, they're very charitable, right? Like there's a lot of like, you turn sort of like the success into and Bethany's saying, what is your wing? I think it was a 2-wing. But regardless, it's just interesting.
I am a 1-wing, which makes me the dreamer. And let's see, I am easygoing, self-effacing, receptive, and complacent. Which we are very different in those ways.
Yeah, the Enneagram 3 with a 2-wing, which is what I was, is quote the charmer.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're a charming fellow.
So someone says JJ is a type A. Who would have guessed? Anyone interested in this much math is who, and I don't know what they said. I don't know if I would consider myself type A at all. I think that I'm a mix of the two with certain aspects of my life. Like there's stuff that you guys see me on shows as a host on Living the Stream, right? Where I have to keep the conversation going and I'm leading the conversation and stuff. And then in a solo podcast for the Late Round Podcast, right? And so like, I think that I come across a lot more like forceful than I actually am in real life. And then people would make that assumption. But I mean, I think there's just a mix depending on what aspect of my life that you're speaking to.
No one is truly one or the other.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely some stuff, but you guys would be shocked out of your minds if you saw like my day-to-day life in the way that I like schedule things and like, right. It's just not. I married my wife because she's really, really good at. She's a PM. Like she's really, really good at that kind of stuff. She went to an engineering school. Like that's what attracted me to her, is that she had it together. I'm much more like all over the place with a lot of this stuff, and so it's interesting. That people have sort of like the perception of me or you, whichever way. Just based on like what you listen to on the podcast,
on what we sell them.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I do have one from Steak Knife Av, which obviously makes sense. I know we have a lot more questions. Maybe we can get them to them on Patreon, and we only have a couple minutes left, but I want to read this one. My nephew is just starting puberty and his voice is starting to change. So it got me thinking, what was your guys' funniest or most embarrassing part of puberty? And I actually have one, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear about your growth as a teenager.
So when I was in 9th grade, so I was 14, I basically had to do a sports podcast for class, right? I mean, this is before podcasts. This is 1997, I guess. And the assignment was to report on a sporting event. I chose a Washington Wizards game that I watched the night before to report on it.
Were they the Bullets back then?
In '97, I think they
probably
had
Wizards. Yeah, probably Wizards.
I think they had just turned to Wizards. So I was supposed to watch the game, write about it, and then talk about it over a microphone, right? But the microphone was outside the classroom, and the speakers were inside the classroom, so the class was just listening to it, but not seeing me, right? And I was so nervous that I could barely hold the mic, like I'm like shaking, trembling, like all over my body, like unable to control myself. And so my voice comes out shaky, right? I'm sure this is happening to you at some point. And so my voice is coming out shaky, and within 10 seconds, I hit the and then Johnson.
Yeah.
Johnson missed the lay. Oh my God. And it was over. But here's the thing, though. I remember being instantly calm after that, because I was like, well, the worst thing happened.
Yeah.
The worst thing happened.
And it was fine.
I'm still alive.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to keep going. And I was actually nails after that. I was actually really good.
Wow. I don't think I had like any like obvious go-to moments with voice cracking or anything like that.
No.
I had a very like, I didn't have like my brother grew like a foot in a year. My brother's 6'5", but like
I didn't know that.
I'm the shortest guy in my family, and I'm 6'1".
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, my dad's 6'2", my brother's 6'5".
You would be the tallest Carter of all time.
Wow!
Literally of all. There's never been a Carter over 6 foot.
Yeah. And so like my brother grew like a foot and was like like a rail because he grew a foot so quickly and stuff, and like did that in a year, right? Or like over a summer. I everything puberty wise with me was very slow burning, right? It didn't happen like from 8th to 9th grade. It was just a slow burn through the pubes, I didn't mean to...
Good God. What?
I was shortening, I shorten words.
Yeah. So
guys, don't shorten puberty.
I want to apologize to the kids. I want to apologize to the adults. Everybody.
How many racks does my brother have? I don't think he has a 3-racker. I think he's a 2-racker. I think there's only 2 racks for him. Anyway, Denny, that's an hour. That's enough for the DGAF episode. We'll end on pubes. Let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, I post on the Blue Sky, and you can find all my work on Roto World. I'm going to have a DFS stacking piece on the site. I hate to be this guy who talks about word count, because I don't like when people do this. But I got to say, I did not mean to do it, but I checked my word count right before we started this podcast, and I had 3,200 words on the games for this coming week. So all of them are correct. You should read them.
Wow. I have a Becoming a Best Ball Bro episode dropping tomorrow to go over my results. And speaking of which, we have Ultimate Tennis in chat, who I believe would be Coop, who's part of the Late Round Fantasy Football Discord and Patreon community. And he, my friend, won 6th place in BBM and won $240,000.
What?
Coop.
Wow. Congratulations to Ultimate Tennis.
Yeah. Yes. Congratulations. Find all my stuff over on lateround.com. Denny, this is the last show in a while.
It is. And we appreciate everybody supporting us through the year. I am going to post some hashtag content as we go through the off season. So check that out.
Although we've come to the... All right. Everyone, thanks for listening. We appreciate you. As always, we will catch you, I guess, not until August,
somewhere
when we're doing a show with Tom Everett Scott.
Yeah, we have to look into his schedule right away.
We'll do stuff on Patreon, though.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Thanks for a great season. Catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to Living the Stream. We hope you enjoyed the internet podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes now. It won't take long, it's fast. For more fantasy football info, check out
LateRound.com and NBC Sports Edge.
Hope you come back soon as we share about the teams and as we